D23 2026 wrapped in Anaheim last weekend, and at the Horizons, a Carousel of Progress showcase, Disney put 6 things on the record about the Disneyland Resort. Not to mention, the Imagineering Horizons Pavilion had some revealing scale models and behind-the-scenes footage. So let's dig deeper into these projects. 6 design decisions, each one carrying a tell about Anaheim's next decade. It's interesting to note that only some of these announcements have opening years attached. One is barely more than a promise, and with how long it's taken to get projects moving at the Disneyland Resort, it's not unreasonable to discount an announcement until there's actual construction equipment in the area. And the Experiences Showcase wasn't the only source of information we have. Imagineering put together scale models, ride vehicle maquettes, behind-the-scenes footage for us to look at closely. When we put all of these together, we get a better understanding of what's in store. So let's walk through 6 reveals for the Disneyland Resort, what was confirmed, what the models tell us, and what all this means for the future. Let's start with one that feels like a footnote, but reveals how the Anaheim Resort will continue to position its entertainment offerings. The Experiences Showcase confirmed 3 returns for 2027. Magic Happens will be coming back down the parade route. An updated take on the original World of Color returns to Paradise Bay. And remember, Dream Comes True returns to Disneyland. World of Color is expected to have some content upgrades, while using the same upgraded digital projection system from 2022. In addition to the castle, Remember Dreams Come True will add brand new projections on Main Street, the Small World facade, and the Rivers of America. And Magic Happens should return with no specific changes. The obvious read is that this is recycling old entertainment, and that's fair, but it does 2 jobs at once. Remember debuted for Disneyland's 50th, with Julie Andrews narrating. If you were standing on Main Street for that, this is nostalgia, but for 10-year-olds, this is brand new. Enough time has passed that Disney gets to serve both audiences on a single budget for a simple refurbishment, and not creation and development of new experience content. This has always been standard Disney strategy, most recently used with bringing back Paint the Night and the Wondrous Journeys fireworks for the 70th anniversary. The second item is the Coco ride. This is the first attraction dedicated to that film in the worldwide Disney parks. It's been confirmed that it's indeed a boat ride, currently being built between Pixar Pier and Paradise Gardens, behind the Incredicoaster, second in the resort's build queue, behind the Avengers Campus expansion, though no opening date has been formally announced. The story picks up 1 year after the events of the 2017 film, traveling through Santa Cecilia and the Land of the Dead with Miguel, Hector, Dante, and others. Next generation audio animatronic skeletons, music, and score from the film will be featured. It was also confirmed that the attraction will feature elements from the upcoming Coco 2 sequel. The new concept art reveals that the attraction welcomes you to a Casa Museo dedicated to the music of Miguel's great-great-grandfather, Hector Rivera. Here's the interesting thing about the story setup. Because the story is centered on Miguel's memories of the Land of the Dead, meaning it's not an actual retelling or a new Miguel adventure, it can revisit any character or moment from the original film with a fresh twist, and not collide with either Coco or Coco 2. This allows for both creative freedom and franchise cohesion at the same time. And Coco 2 arrives in November 2029. It would be reasonable to assume that the attraction and the film would both benefit from a simultaneous opening date around this time. Coming up, we'll go over how the biggest announcement of the evening, with no ride list, concept art, or date, is quite possibly the most consequential of all 6. Third is Stark Flight Lab. Opening in 2028 as part of the Avengers Campus expansion, themed as a flight test lab run by Avenger flight instructors. The ride system and vehicles are the main focus of this attraction. 2-person gyrokinetic pods roll along a central track, lock in, and then get seized by individual robotic arms, delivering pitch, roll, and yaw flight maneuvers. The pavilion had a 1/10 scale maquette of the vehicle, as well as behind-the-scenes footage of the ride development. KUKA robotic arm rides are not new. What's new is the dynamic multi-step ride cycle. Previous KUKA arm attractions bolt the vehicle to a permanently fixed base where you load, ride, and unload on the same single arm. Here, the ride pods start on a rolling track. The arms lock on mid-experience and detach your ride pod from the track during the flight phase. Distinct load, flight, and unload zones all working simultaneously. This tells us that a big design driver is guest throughput and capacity. By separating the loading-unloading process between a moving track and the flight station, multiple arms can run simultaneously to keep a continuous line moving. And taking a look at the scale model, there look to be about 30 plus ride pods available, each at various stages. Here's another distinct Disney advantage. Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Mackie, and Brie Larson are all reprising their Avengers roles. Any competitor can put together a KUKA arm attraction, but nobody else can fully incorporate Avengers IP and talent into the mix. The fourth item shares the same structure, and it's the E-ticket attraction that anchors the entire land. Avengers Infinity Defense will be opening in 2028 as well. A multiverse jumping vehicle blending massive physical sets with large-scale media projection. You'll travel through portals to Wakanda, Asgard, and New York and go face-to-face with King Thanos. And looking at the scale model, we see Stark Flight Lab, the Infinity Defense entrance and show building, and the pedestrian path into Cars Land all on the same board. This confirms what we've seen in prior concept art, that this is one integrated structure housing both attractions. And if this is the kind of analysis you enjoy, breaking down the scale models instead of press releases, hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The behind the scenes footage showed something the concept art doesn't. Colossal physical sets with a multi-story Black Panther monolith and oversized Mjolnir hammer. Vehicles will maneuver around physical objects blended with digital projections. This alleviates a concern around the fan community that the attraction would be overly screen heavy. The scale model also confirms a massive multi-story show building, which implies a moment or two of vertical movement, drops or an elevated rise, similar to Rise of the Resistance on Batuu. This wasn't a confirmed feature, but something I broke down in my previous Infinity Defense analysis video. And the confirmed cast runs deep. Iman Vellani in the pre-show, Jeremy Renner, Chris Hemsworth, Anthony Mackie, Robert Downey Jr., and like the Stark Flight Lab, incorporating Avengers IP and talent is a distinct advantage for Disney. Fifth is the Avatar destination, and this one is interesting because of what didn't happen. Avatar was essentially absent from the showcase. Only a brief mention with no discussion or details. It did appear in the Imagineering Pavilion as an incredibly detailed scale model. What's confirmed is what we already learned previously. The land is themed to Avatar: The Way of Water. It will replace a sizable portion of DCA's Hollywoodland studio backlot and push out into the Harbor Boulevard bus drop-off area. The centerpiece attraction is a bioluminescent boat excursion, and the model showed Pandora rockwork, cascading water, and a 30-person ride vehicle. It's expected to use an advanced propulsion system with fine control over the boat's speed, position, orientation, and rotation, similar to Shanghai's Pirates of the Caribbean ride system, tracing back to a Disney patent filed in 2012. Now here's something brand new that we did learn. Take a look at the edge of the model. The Disneyland monorail beam that cuts straight through Hollywoodland today runs right along the outer rockwork. There's been lots of fan speculation on how the monorail would be incorporated with Avatar. This appears to answer that question, at least partially. It had been suspected that the monorail would either have to be rerouted or incorporated into the Avatar destination somehow. So this confirms for now that the monorail will run along the outer edge of the attraction and possibly the entire land. But this model likely only shows part of the land, so the monorail might still have to run through Avatar itself. Which brings us to the biggest surprise of the night. Despite no ride list, concept art, or dates, Disney Experiences chairman Thomas Maslam confirmed a long overdue reimagining of Tomorrowland, the third major overhaul in its 71-year history, which will, in his words, honor the legacy of the original land while reimagining its future. With new attractions and more open spaces. The stated goal is to restore the spirit of optimism, innovation, and possibility of the original 1955 Tomorrowland. And in a surprise move, it's now slotted ahead of Avatar in the build queue. Leadership also did something Disney rarely does out in public. They agreed with us. Disneyland Resort President Jill Estorino said plainly that the land feels tired, that there's very little tomorrow left in it, and that years of criticism have been valuable, painful, and true. She even joked about how long the construction wall at the Tomorrowland entrance has been standing. If you've walked past this since 2019, you know why that landed. Now, there's a fair counter-argument that's been brought up, and it's mainly because this is an announcement of an intention with nothing real, and some have been skeptical when and if this will proceed. This is a legitimate concern, but from public-facing statements at least, Disney appears to be committed to the project. There are some interesting things to note with this announcement. Emily O'Brien, the Imagineer leading the project, described the assignment as imagining the only Tomorrowland Walt himself envisioned, designed, and walked in, referring to the 1955 opening day vision. This vision is a bit different from the iconic 1967 World on the Move makeover, which debuted of all things the People Mover. Does this mean there will not be a new People Mover? Not necessarily, but time will tell. Also of note is that O'Brien previously led Fantasy Springs at Tokyo Disney Sea, a unified multi-IP land where one design language holds these several IPs together, which may be the pattern they follow for this new Tomorrowland. Speaking of Tokyo, their new Space Mountain Earthrise is another O'Brien-led project. This could be a clue that the new design could incorporate a similar harmony with nature and the environment motif. And there may be a significant issue looming that Imagineering will have to face. As I mentioned in a previous video, a comprehensive makeover here presents an infrastructure problem before a creative one. The intertwined People Mover track, the underground Tomorrowland tunnels, the dark water system underneath that feeds the rest of the park. We'll have to wait and see if Disney decides to work around the infrastructure rather than rebuild it. But why did they decide to do this now ahead of Avatar? The current condition of the land is one reason, but it was also explained as delivering the projects in the order that's right for fans, meaning the goal is in some part fan service, but mainly overall resort balancing. Shore up the weak spot in the original park while continuing to invest in DCA with Coco and Avengers. And it's not surprising that with a change in the executive hierarchy, from Bob Iger to DeMauro, Maslam, and Estorino, that priorities can shift. At the end of the day, the vaguest announcement of the whole weekend commits Disney to solving the most challenging design problem it has had to deal with historically, because tomorrow and the future is hard to keep up with. Every version of tomorrow becomes yesterday faster than it can be built. So what do you think of these announcements? Tomorrowland ahead of Avatar, right call or not? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to learn more about the infrastructure problem facing a Tomorrowland rebuild, I'll add a link to the video here. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next video.